In the town of Ashford, hidden away from the world, there was an old, abandoned mansion on the outskirts of town. The townspeople whispered about the mansion, claiming it was cursed. They spoke of a figure in the shadows, known only as the Phantom, who would offer an unthinkable bargain to those desperate enough to seek him out. Eleanor had always been the type to put others first. She worked tirelessly as a waitress, scraping by with barely enough to cover rent. Dreams of a better life consumed her thoughts, but every attempt to break free from the cycle of poverty had been in vain. One evening, after a long shift, Eleanor overheard a conversation between two older women at the diner. They spoke in hushed tones, their eyes darting around nervously as if afraid someone might overhear. "Have you heard? The Phantom is back," one of the women whispered. Eleanor froze, her curiosity piqued. The Phantom? She had heard the stories growing up, about a figure who would grant wishes in exchange for something precious. People claimed he could change your life, make your deepest desires a reality. But the price was always a mystery. Later that night, as Eleanor walked home through the quiet streets of Ashford, she found herself standing at the gates of the old mansion. Her heart raced, and though a sense of dread settled over her, she felt an undeniable pull to step inside. The mansion loomed before her, dark and oppressive. She stepped onto the creaky porch and knocked on the door. It creaked open of its own accord, revealing a figure dressed in a long, shadowy cloak, his face hidden in the darkness. "I've been waiting for you, Eleanor," the Phantom's voice echoed, deep and cold. "I offer you a bargain, your deepest wish fulfilled. But remember, every wish has its cost." Eleanor hesitated, her mind racing. She had nothing left to lose. "I want a life of comfort, of success," she said, her voice trembling. "I want to be free from this struggle." The Phantom's lips curled into a smile, though his face remained shrouded in darkness. "It's yours, for a price." Without another word, the Phantom extended his hand. Eleanor reached out and grasped it, sealing the bargain. The next day, Eleanor awoke to a new world. She was no longer the struggling waitress. She was the owner of a thriving restaurant, living in a luxurious home, surrounded by people who adored her. At first, everything seemed perfect. She felt powerful, invincible. But as the days passed, the cracks began to show. Eleanor's success came at a cost. The people around her began to change. Her friends grew distant. Her employees became resentful. She started to notice strange occurrences in her home. Objects moved when no one was around, and whispers echoed through the halls. Late at night, the Phantom would appear in her dreams, his voice a constant reminder of the deal she had made. "I gave you everything you wanted, but you failed to consider the cost." The price of her success had come in the form of her humanity. Eleanor began to feel isolated, unable to trust anyone. Her perfect life had become a prison, and the people she loved were now strangers, distant and cold. Worse still, the Phantom appeared more frequently, his visits growing darker with each passing day. In desperation, Eleanor sought to undo the bargain. She tried everything, sought out ancient rituals, consulted occultists, and even begged the Phantom to take back his gift. But each time he only smiled, his face hidden in the shadows. "You cannot escape what you have bargained for," he told her, his voice echoing in the silence. One night, Eleanor made her final decision. She would confront the Phantom head-on, no longer willing to live in fear of the price she had paid. Armed with only her courage, she ventured back to the mansion, determined to end the cycle of torment once and for all. Inside the mansion, the Phantom awaited her, standing at the center of the grand, decaying hall. His eyes gleamed with an unnatural light, and a cold wind swirled around them. "You should have known," he whispered. "No bargain with me is ever meant to be undone. But now, you will learn the true price of your desires." Eleanor stood tall, refusing to back down. "I don't want your gift anymore," she said, her voice trembling with defiance. The Phantom stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. "Then you will learn what true loss feels like." In that moment, Eleanor realized that the Phantom's bargain had never been about granting wishes. It had always been about trapping souls, forcing them to make impossible choices. She would never escape, for the Phantom always claimed what was his, and he had already taken her soul. As the mansion crumbled around her, Eleanor understood too late that some bargains are not meant to be made.